We've all seen The Shining, right? I hope if you're watching this you've either watched it or don't care about spoilers, because in this video we're going to be discussing Stanley Kubrick's 1980 masterpiece, The Shining. Specifically its ending and how it was cut from the public eye after the film was already released. Also, for those of you who wanted to see a video on the burning of Alexandria, that'll be the next one of the series that I release, because this is
Tales from Lost Media.
Now, as I said, I'm sure you're all aware of the story, but in case you're not, to grossly oversimplify things, husband, wife and child go to hotel. Child rides around in a trike and sees these kids, cabin fever hits, man goes insane, naked demon lady, all work no play makes Jack a dull boy, runs around with an axe, here's Johnny, runs after the child in a hedge maze, freezes, happy ending, kind of. After he freezes, it cuts to the final shot of the film, in which a camera slowly moves in on a photograph from the 1920s that includes a person that looks just like the film's antagonist, Jack Torrance. Now, I could speak for hours about the themes and the messages of this film, what I personally think this says, what I think about the film, all those kind of theories and tidbits. The Shining has gone down as one of the most experimental and unsolved movies of all time. There aren't really any concrete answers, and so I could kind of talk about thoughts and theories. However, this isn't just another video essay narrated by a pretentious English person that uses his accent to sound more intelligent when in actuality he's chatting complete shit. No, this is a Tales of Lost Media, and so I need to speak about a scene that was cut from right underneath the public's noses, that in the original cut of the film slotted right between Popsicle Jack and this photograph of him, otherwise known as the last shot in the film. So what was this scene? This would have been the penultimate sequence, and as any writer will tell you, the last handful of scenes in your story are oftentimes the most important. They relay the themes and ideas of what your narrative has been about. They should wrap everything up in a clear and concise manner. They are extremely, extremely important. I can't stress that enough. And just in a moment you're going to find out why. Well, according to the earliest audiences, the ones who saw the scene, this sequence contained Jack's wife Wendy, as well as his son, both at the hospital where Stuart Ullman, the man who hired Jack, comes to meet them. There he tells him that there's no evidence of any illegal activity occurring within the confines of the Overlook Hotel. He proceeds to give Danny a tennis ball, and then it cuts back to the original film with the photograph. So the scene seems to be extremely short. The original script barely made it past 3 full pages. So let's break down what this scene was meant to be, and then we can discuss why this is lost media. So the real use of this scene was to reveal that everything was set up from the beginning, that Ullman was supernatural himself, or he had intended for Jack to succumb to the forces of the hotel. As we the viewer know, there would be clear evidence of something illegal occurring at the Overlook Hotel. There's broken down doors, smashed items, and to top it all off, there is a human freeze pop just by the entrance. The idea that something is awry is only furthered by Ullman giving Danny a tennis ball, because the tennis ball is a motif used throughout the film. What this would have represented is up for debate, as is much of the film, because it's just so open to interpretation despite there being more commonly accepted readings. Regardless, this means that Ullman was likely in on it and that he had orchestrated what was to happen, or perhaps the power and the influence that the Overlook Hotel had took control of him and anyone else who went to find out what happened, including Ullman. It makes Ullman now another ghost element. Was he a ghost from the very beginning? The film is complex enough because nothing is explained. So why was this ending cut from the film? Well, in regards to this, Roger Ebert is quoted as saying, "If Jack did indeed freeze to death in the labyrinth, of course his body was found, and sooner rather than later, since Dick Halloran alerted the forest rangers to serious trouble at the hotel. If Jack's body was not found, what happened to it? Was it never there? Was it absorbed into the past? And does that explain Jack's presence in the final photograph of hotel partygoers in 1921? Did Jack's violent pursuit of his wife and child exist entirely in Wendy's imagination, or Danny's, or theirs?" Kubrick was wise to remove that epilogue. It pulled one rug too many out from under the story. At some level, it is necessary for us to believe the 3 members of the Torrance family are actually residents in that hotel during that winter, whatever happens and whatever they think happens. As with most things, I think he is bang on the money. The ending that we're used to has just the right mix of conclusiveness and openness. It gives us a concrete ending while still giving us one last gut punch for the road with that open ending. Audiences apparently agreed, because it became apparent that many people that watched the original ending weren't really as sold on the film. Many of them left at the beginning of the credits, they didn't care too much for it. So what did Kubrick do about this? Well, he got apprentice editor Jay Friedkin to go around theatres and physically cut the movie. Obviously back then in the 80s we had film tapes, and so you could manually cut, unlike the projectors we have in cinemas today. This young man was limousined around New York and had to sneak into cinemas and physically cut the reel if it wasn't being played mid-film. Now if you're interested, I'm going to link an interview from Friedkin about his hour-and-a-half conversation with Kubrick over the cutting of this film, because it was like down to the frame. That will be all in the description. I mean, this would be like a young, intelligent and frankly handsome YouTuber going into the YouTube editor and cutting out acid attacks and Daddy 05 out of his YouTube controversies and scandals iceberg video, you know, that people would be lucky to look at. Now, back in the 80s, we didn't have streaming services nor Blu-ray. Kubrick had a bit of time to cut it out, and so he did. But what happened next makes it lost media, because unlike Save from the Titanic, Warner Studios didn't burn down in a fire. I would know, I've been there. I think it's also important to mention that many films have cutscenes. Most of them have cutscenes. The Shining itself had about 25 minutes shaved off its European release because allegedly Kubrick thought that Europeans were smarter and didn't need in-depth backgrounds for characters and situations, which is like, you know, yeah, of course we are.
Why does somebody not know how to flush a toilet after they've had a shit?
Anyways, the reason why this is lost media is that after Kubrick gave the original cut, the one with the final scene, back to Warner, nobody knows what happened to it. It's never been seen since. Not on DVDs, not in re-releases, nowhere. You cannot find this scene anywhere on Earth, apart from perhaps maybe in Warner Studios. Friedkin, the bloke who cut the scenes, had to give the tapes back to Warner, and unfortunately he couldn't keep them for himself. From there, we don't really know if Warner kept the tapes and didn't just show them, if they destroyed them, if they ever intend to show them. We have no idea. It's just one of those pieces of lost media that is fascinating, because this scene, many think, might have ruined the film, if it was included, of course. It could have taken what we all consider a fantastic piece of cinematic art and turned it into something that was overly complicated for overly complicated's sake. Firstly, this clearly demonstrates how impactful endings are and how the last 5 minutes of your film can make or break it, despite how good the first 85 are. And secondly, the power of editing is such an incredible force. As someone who likes to edit, this tale is very interesting to me because it's so evident that a single cut can make or potentially break your work. Anyways, I'm Fox Akimbo and this has been
Tales from Lost Media.
That's right, it's been Tales of Lost Media, and I want to thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please do subscribe because we'd love to have you as part of the community. We're nearing on 6,000 subscribers, which is awesome, so please do subscribe. Follow me on all of my socials at Fox Akimbo for all of them, and they are each in the description. Support me on Patreon and send iceberg requests to foxakimbo@gmail.com for a chance to be shouted out in a future video. And finally, let me know down in the comments what you'd like to see me do next, as I'm only 48 videos in and I'm already out of ideas. Thank you for watching.